Weird.
Hey everybody! So we're gonna go live here for a couple minutes before we officially start the show because we're having some chat room issues. So we wanted to get out here for all our chatties to let you know that we know the chat room's not working and we're trying to fix it really quickly.
Oh, it's working. I think I've just connected.
Ooh.
Boom! I'm in now, so it looks like it's back online. I don't know what that holdup was because it wasn't anything I changed to get it working. So
It's probably Chase in the chat room. He was holding the door shut as we were all trying to get in. Isn't that right, Chase?
just like him.
Wow.
All right then. So I'm going to give the spiel. Let's dig right in. 3, 2, 1. Are you guys ready?
Ooh, let's do it.
All right. Hey everybody! Welcome to Game Audio Hour, episode number 32. It's our weekly podcast where we discuss all things game audio, from creative ideas to the latest techniques, project experiences to audio secrets. Here's where you'll find your in-depth coverage and opinions related to game audio. And I'm going to say hi to Alex there in Japan. What's going on, Alex?
Hi, I'm very well. We're nicely in autumn. Every time we do this, I start off talking about the weather, don't I? I really should expand my repertoire there.
Talk about trains. How are the trains?
The trains in Japan, they start apologizing when they're more than about 5 seconds late.
Really?
Wow.
There's an apology?
Yeah, they apologize for inconvenience caused for the train being 5 seconds late because, you know, it's true. You're just going to have to come over here and find out yourself, Kyle.
That's not an inconvenience, 5 seconds.
Well, time is money, and you gotta stay on top of on top of things.
That's amazing. That was amazing. I don't apologize for being like an hour late to a party. You kidding me?
Well, that's SoCal. That's LA. Everyone's late in Los Angeles.
It's true. It's true. And I shouldn't say that because I really prefer to stay as tardy or as punctual as possible.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think the culture's got a slight shift here compared to Tokyo, or well, where you are. You're not in Tokyo. Yeah, so that's funny, 5 seconds. But hey, I'm glad the train's on time today and got you to the show. Is that a good segue?
Well, actually, I'm kind of already home. I mean, I haven't really gone anywhere yet. So.
Okay, a segue attempt number 2. At one time, Vince was in Japan. Hey, Vince, how's it going?
It's going pretty well, having fun here, working and living in LA. Saw a little bit of rain for the first time in God knows how long. We really need it. Certainly not enough, but hey, it's LA. It's hard to complain.
Yeah, absolutely. I watched the movie Noah yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was. That's a really cool movie if you haven't seen it, with Russell Crowe.
Oh, yeah.
I was completely surprised. I'm not giving anything away, but that movie, right from the opening, I was like, oh, this isn't what I expected from this movie. It's not. Okay, very cool. But there's a scene where he's waiting on rain to start, obviously, and one falls from the sky and hits him in the face. And today when I walked out, I was just looking up, and a piece of rain fell and hit me right in the face. So I ran inside and built an arc. It's right back here. It's over here.
Does Crow use an Australian accent or an American accent in that?
He does. He just sounds like himself, I guess. So probably an Australian accent.
Yeah, he's a great actor, isn't he?
Yeah, he's an amazing guy. Yeah, I mean, it's a great movie. You got to see it if you don't get a chance. If you haven't had a chance. His wife, played by Jennifer Connelly, who didn't crush on her for 400,000 years. Her accent fluctuates between American and British. It just kind of like even within the sentence, there's just certain words she used that were British sounding. That kind of took it away from me. I kind of get make a choice. But so enough about that. So let's talk topics.
Right.
So the first thing we thought we were going to talk about, we felt we should talk about, is there's a bunch of conventions all happening at the same time. So we wanted to get out the word on what conventions are happening and when they're happening so that everybody will be aware. I know a lot of times, like for instance in my calendar, I have IndieCade because I never miss it. But I didn't know AES was going on at the exact same time. So there can't be just me who's not paying full attention to conventions. So I'm going to give a convention schedule really quickly, and then we thought we would talk about how different they are, what to kind of expect at one compared to the other, and maybe some tips and tricks on getting around and saying hi to people. And we know that we've covered some of this in previous episodes, but not everybody has seen all of our episodes, so we kind of like to do a little overlap once in a while, but when we do an overlap, we just lightly touch on it since we've touched on the subject in depth in the past. Does that sound good, you guys? Did I handle that right?
That sounds great.
All right, so here are the convention schedules coming up. The one closest to us is Tokyo Game Show, which is September 18th, 19th, 20th, and 21st. Alex will be there, so go shake that beautiful man's hand.
I'll give you a survival guide to Tokyo Game Show when you finish your list, because it's a bit an unusual one as far as game conventions go.
Now, I've only been to it once, and it was pretty awesome.
Yeah, I'll come back to that.
Cool. Okay, then number 2, and right after that, on September 24th, is Game Music Connect in London, and we will be having a special episode related to that one coming up. I just wanted you guys to know. So that is at in London at the Purcell Room, South Bank Centre. And the Tokyo Game Show is in Tokyo, in case you were wondering. I'm not being specific, am I, about that? Okay, so number 3 is Game Sound Con in Los Angeles at the Millennium Biltmore Hotel. That is October 7th and 8th. Again, by the way, websites for these things, because for the listeners, the Tokyo Game Show is what? Just, oh my God, that website is a nightmare.
Yeah, it's
Japanese website names.
Just Google Tokyo Game Show.
Yeah.
It's much easier.
I just looked up at the URL. I'm like, what the?
Yeah, it's really
half
long.
of those words. All right,
Yeah,
Game Music Connect is at GameMusicConnect2014.com. Game Sound Con is exactly that, .com. That's con as in convention. And the next one, number 4 and number 5, which are happening at the same time, right? AES, which is AES.org, and IndieCade, which is IndieCade.com, are both happening on October 9th through the 12th.
Mm-hmm.
So who wants to talk about Tokyo? Well, Tokyo Game Show first on the list. Alex, tell us some more about that con and what to expect.
Yeah, it's a bit of an unusual one. It's got a lot of legacy, a lot of history behind it, and consequently, the way that they do things at Tokyo Game Show is very what's the right word? Ritualistic, very ingrained. It's sort of a very they don't change it very much over the years, and so it takes, because of that legacy that they have there, it takes a little bit of time for the Tokyo Game Show to catch up with the way that the industry is going in the world. And one of the key things that we've seen over the past few years at Tokyo Game Show is the attention slowly creeping onto the indie development scene in Japan, but only very slowly. Primarily, it's a consumer-focused exhibition, which mainly targets the people who can afford to set up a booth there. Basically, it's really, really huge, and you get massive Konami and Sega and Capcom and Nintendo, and they've got the huge booths there, and of course Sony. 2 years ago, I think it was, we started to see a little bit of indie activity. Then last year they had the indie section inside the main hall with all the other ones on the business days. So basically there's the Thursday, Friday are for business days for industry people. So if you are thinking to go and you're watching this, it's likely that you're in the industry because you're a fantastic, beautiful, wonderful game audio person, which means that you could sign up for the Thursday and Friday. And if you're a freelancer, provided it looks like you are actually a legitimate freelancer with a website and it looks like you have somewhat of a sort of a corporate presence, there's no problem with signing up for the business days. If you're a student, I'm not sure how that would go. I think if you can provide enough credentials to show this is your school, basically there's a form that you have to fill in, and then they look at that form and decide whether or not you are worthy as a business day attendee. Anyway, so on the business days, last time they had the indie section in the main hall on the business days, and then they shifted it out to the cosplay hall on the general public today, which was sort of, it was not really ideal. I mean, basically the cosplay hall was full of people coming and going, getting changed, and lining up for like a cosplay competition. It was not really. This year, anyway, I hear that they're having the indie section in the main hall the whole time, and Sony has done the gracious act of actually, I think what they did was they bought the whole indie section and then made it free to attend for small indie developers who wanted to actually attend Tokyo Game Show, which is very typical of the progressive stance that Sony is taking these days towards indie game development, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
Anyway, so what to expect? Unfortunately, Tokyo Game Show is not really a fantastic place for networking. Really, the only way to sort of network there is at parties, but there are not really that many parties that go on. There's Sense of Wonder Night, which is sort of the experimental game exhibition, which is happening on the Friday night, and that's kind of okay. I mean, it's unfortunately sad to say that, well, maybe not sad, but it's a bit of an indication of how the scene is here in Japan, that most of the people who enter the Sense of Wonder Night are actually foreign game developers.
Oh, cool.
Not Japanese game developers. Reason for that is that still truly independent game development, as in, you know, just a few guys in their bedroom punching out a game, or a few girls in their bedroom punching out a game, that is still fairly rare in Japan compared to small companies, and of course the large companies as well. So anyway, Sense of Wonder Night, it's a nice chance to sort of see some interesting experimental game designs and stuff. On the Saturday night is Indie Stream, which is sponsored by Sony. That is also a large party where you can meet a lot of people. But yeah, I wouldn't really go to Tokyo Game Show if your primary goal is networking. I would more go to actually just case out the Japanese game industry, see some of the new games, and just for the crazy, bizarre spectacle that it is, where you've got, you know, all the cosplayers on the Saturday and the Sunday, and masses and masses and masses of people. So be ready for that.
So it's kind of E3-like in some ways, where it's not good to mix,
basically, yeah. I mean, basically, it's the Japanese equivalent of E3, so it's very consumer-focused.
You already said that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm repeating myself. One thing you can do is they have a lot of the universities and art schools. They set up booths as well, and they're interesting to talk to. You know, if you're interested in getting into the industry, or maybe even studying at one of these institutions, the teachers are right there, and you can talk to them. A few of them will speak English. Good chance for you to test out your Nihongo chops, right, Vince?
Yeah, it's always fun. They like it when you practice.
Yeah, I would say that it's an event worth going to just for the spectacle and just to have a good time, just for the fun of it. Not really if you're interested in getting a whole lot out of it as far as networking. So there you go. That's my survival guide to the Tokyo Game Show. And if you are going, please get in touch with me on atype808 on Twitter, because I'd love to meet you.
That's awesome.
Ooh.
So the next one in the list is Game Music Connect, which is a one-day affair in London. It's got quite a prestigious list of people coming. So go to the website. That would be the best way. I can't wait. I want to go to this. I saw this last year, wanted to go this year, but I can't make it. So I'm hoping next year I'll go.
Who's on their VIP list?
Oh, man. Well, James Hannigan and John Broomhall are the organizers, and they have quite a list. Let me get down to it. It's all alphabetical. I got to hit the View More button to see everybody. I mean, they've got Richard Jakes, and they've got Gary Scheinman, they've got Jessica Curie, they've got Tom Colvin. I mean, I could read this whole thing, and you've got to see. You just go out to the website, which is Game Music Connect with 2 C's, CN Music and C and Connect, 2014.com. Of course, Jason Graves is another one on there. But in that day, they fill it with so much stuff. Right below, when you scroll down their website, not only do you see all the speakers, but then after that, you see the schedule, and it's just a lot's going to get done in one day. It's pretty awesome. A lot of sponsors, too. My goodness. So, yeah, check that out.
Seems like they really developed a lot. This is only their second year, but they had such a turnout for their first year, and it looks like they have a lot of new people that they're featuring, and the sponsors, like you mentioned. That's really awesome.
And keep an eye out, because we've been graciously blessed with an interview with John Broomhall, and so once we get that done and edited, we're going to post that as a kind of a special Game Audio Hour edition before the opening of their convention, which again is September 24th. So keep a lookout for that. We'll be twittering all that stuff when it's ready to go. And we'll go on to number 3, which is Game Sound Connect. You want to talk about that, Vince? I've never been.
Yeah,
It sounds interesting.
Yeah, it's not a bad con. I was actually just there last year.
Sorry, I said Game Sound Connect. I wanted to correct myself. Game Sound Con, not Game Sound Connect.
Yeah. Well, Game Sound Con it's very cool. I was there last year, and it's been around for a few years already. Last year was at the LA Convention Center at the exact same time that GDC Next was happening. This year, GDC Next is not happening until November. So this time around, they're going to be in the Biltmore Hotel in downtown, and they have a pretty similar structure to what they had last year. So they provide 4 concurrent tracks during their 2 days, and those 4 tracks correspond to what it is you want to do. If you're just starting out in the industry, you probably want to check out the Essentials track. And then there is a Pro track, which is, I guess, for more advanced topics and subjects. But then they also have 2 other tracks that are running. One is specifically for FMOD topics. So how do you get the most out of FMOD? Some of them are intro sessions, some of them are really in-depth sessions, and then their other track is for WISE, intro to WISE, advanced techniques for WISE, and all that. I sometimes wish it was a little bit more spread out and random because I kind of want to check out some of the pro tracks, and I'm interested in both FMOD and WISE. I'm an experienced FMOD user, and I would like to do more with the new version of FMOD Studio, which relatively recently came out, and then WISE as well, because WISE is just really hitting it out of the park, it seems. So it's a little bit annoying to me that they have that particular structure, but you know that these guys have done a really good job of setting up cool talks, good topics. They've been doing it for a few years, and Brian, who's been running this thing, is just a great guy. Game Sound Con is a pretty great con to go to, both for networking and job stuff, as well as for just straight up learning, because there's a whole lot of learning that you can do with all these tools that are out there.
Yeah, absolutely. As Alex has been going through WISE himself, haven't you?
Yeah, it's the programmer and myself at Vitae, we're, like, every day, a day doesn't go by that we're together and we're not sort of doing the WISE head nod, going WISE.
Do you show the horns, or do you just leave it up to head nod?
That's a WISE. Chase in the chat room has also linked us to a new convention called Gamers Rhapsody, which he's got a link there. It's November 15th and 16th.
Yeah,
and it's in, Minneapolis. It's a new convention, Downtown Street Pole Doubletree by Hilton. St. Paul, Minneapolis. Pole Doubletree by Hilton. Wow, how does that work? Downtown St. Paul Doubletree by Hilton. I get it.
So the Doubletree, is a hotel.
Okay. I see. I get it. So I'm just, it's gamersrhapsody.com. And I'll just read a little bit here from the website for us. The Gamers Rhapsody is a convention for those interested in video games, along with all the media that is put into them. For those who love listening to video game music, that wouldn't be any of us, would it? No.
Hate it.
Creating fan fiction. Oh, that's nice. Of their favorite characters. Doodling video game landscapes, or just enjoy being immersed in the in-game atmosphere. This is your convention. Well, it sounds interesting. It sounds like a sort of a more, as opposed to sort of a gamer-focused thing. It's more of a fan artist style convention. So if you like the music, if you like creating fan fiction or drawing, making video game landscapes, or just contributing to your image of the video games that you love, then this is a great convention for you, it seems. So yeah, there's an art contest, which seems nice. It's nice. The art contest is running. Wow, it says the art contest starting June 15th till September 15th. So you have 6 days now. It says the art competition is only open to all U.S. residents. So I guess.
Do they list a fan fiction contest? Because I've started a subgenre of fan fiction, which is I do fan fiction about game composers together.
I have to say, I don't think that's a new genre.
Oh, no way.
I talked to some other music composers who are far more popular than I am, who have expressed some regret at seeing some fanfics written about them.
Wow.
You're not the first.
He listened longingly to the strained strings in God of War, and he said to Gerard, "I love you." I told you that's right out of one I wrote. It's right over here on the side. Right.
So, if you are into fan fiction or fan arts, or just basically enjoying the game world of your favorite games, then it looks like Games Rhapsody in Minneapolis in November is for you. So check that out at gamesrhapsody.com, courtesy of good old Chase in the chat room.
Ooh, I like one of the events that they list. They say that there's a jam room. Bring your instrument to the convention and jam with other musicians playing your favorite video game songs. Bring your ocarina, guitar, or other portable instruments. A single keyboard will be available in the room. I always loved that. There's another convention on the East Coast called MagFest, which is very specifically a video game music convention for fans. And they have a jam room there, and it's just a fantastic place to hang out. And it's always interesting to hear what are the music that people really like listening to, as well as elaborating on in their own ways, whether it be in a prog rock fashion, or in more like a bebop jazz fashion, or just totally crazy and experimental. But it's
so
fun stuff.
The Fat Man always hosts one at GDC too, right? A jam session?
I vaguely remember hearing that. I don't know if he still does that.
Oh, yeah. Well, I didn't go to the last two, but before that he was doing it. I never know what you're supposed to do there. Are you supposed to, and this is what this topic is about, am I supposed to show up with a guitar and know a bunch of songs from video games that we're all going to play together, or can I start ripping into Stairway to Heaven?
I think it's encouraged to do video game stuff.
Okay.
I mean, there are things that... like if you started playing a piece from Chrono Trigger, for example, not necessarily everyone who's in there will know Chrono Trigger, but maybe 2 or 3 other guys, and you'll start jamming with that, and you're like, oh, well, maybe we'll do this other Chrono Trigger stuff, and then it goes into other Square Enix stuff, maybe some Final Fantasy stuff, and a lot of people know about Final Fantasy music.
Yeah.
Or Street Fighter. I know when I go to a jam room, I ask if people do Street Fighter 2, because I think it's fantastic. It's really easy to solo over top Street Fighter. The chord progressions are great. Sagat's theme from Street Fighter 2 is a fantastic thing to try soloing on top of with the crazy 7/8. Huh?
How do you spell Sagat?
Oh, Sagat.
Okay.
It's got a really wacky meter to it, and it's just fantastic for playing around with jazz soloing. You would love it. You should try it.
I'm going to look it up, and I'm going to put it in the show notes too. That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's great that this game is Rhapsody. It's a very interesting idea, actually, because up until now, conventions, of course, mainly focus on either just 2 facets. It's either for developers and content creators, or it's for sort of gaming consumers. But there's often the cosplayers and the fan art people and fan fiction. They'll go as gaming consumers and they'll do their thing there. But it's sort of, if the convention is mainly about showing gamers games, there's sort of a bit of a disconnect there that that it's not fully taking advantage of their enthusiasm and their passion for expressing their love for the games that they like. Yeah. So this Games Rhapsody is a fantastic idea, I guess, because you can, if you are an artistically inclined game enthusiast, and it's not enough for you just to love a game, but you love to contribute to your creation of it somehow, it sounds like this is a great place to meet up with like-minded people.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm writing myself a note here to tell a friend who lives in that area about this, because he plays live. He does a lot of open mic night stuff, but he has 2 Game Boy Colors, and he just he's pre-done a bunch of the tracks inside of there, and then he just plays live with it. It's amazing. The chiptunes whole thing is just, it's amazing to me. I don't, on so many levels, like I can't stand, we were talking about my JV 1080 before the show. I have one primary reason why that thing gets used about 10 hours a year, and it's because of that tiny little screen. You know what I mean? So when I get on a Game Boy Advance or a Game Boy Color or something, I'm like, oh, there's no way I'm going to spend the hours you have to spend composing something to put all that stuff. Oh, my God. But then he does it, and then he pulls out. So he's got one running, like the patterns, and then he pulls out and just riffs on the other one. Amazing to see. But he's near there, so I'm going to tell him about this convention.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, actually, while we're on the topic of, this is a beautiful segue here, but while we're on the topic of old school music production methods, I think one of the, look at that segue, wasn't that beautiful? Wasn't that seamless?
I'm going to frame that one. That one gets in. That one's getting hung in the front room.
Yeah, the other topic that we're thinking to talk about today, in the second half of the show, was previously we've talked about rigs and we've talked about.
I want to talk about IndieCade before we get too far into that next subject.
Oh,
okay.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Let me just introduce the topic first, and then we'll come back to IndieCade.
I'm sorry for the interruption.
So, we've talked about rigs and we've talked about minimum gear to make audio for a game and all that kind of stuff before. But one different angle that we were thinking to talk about today was how important is it to stay up to date with the latest developments in technology for game or for audio production. How viable is it to be using old tech to make new game audio, and when we've got all these, with every week there'll be new sample libraries and new synths and new DAWs and everything, just marches on. How viable is it to be using older technology to be still making music in the game audio? And on the topic of game audio, I believe there's another convention that you wanted to talk about there, Kyle.
So AES, was that covered? Did we cover AES?
No, not yet.
No. Yeah, so those two are side by side. So Vince, you take AES, I'll take IndieCade. Does that sound okay?
Yeah, sure. So AES is the Audio Engineering Society, and they will get together in various cities. This time around, it's in Los Angeles, and it's actually happening at the exact same time as IndieCade, which is right after Game Sound Con on that week, October 9th. And it's a fun show that will do a lot of exhibiting of a bunch of audio products, as well as lots of different tracks for various audio professionals in various places. So if you're a film audio guy, if you're an academic audio guy, if you are just a pure audio engineer that's, doing stuff with, hexagonal microphone diaphragms or something weird like that. They have lots of different tracks.
You had me at hexagonal.
They have lots of different tracks at AES, and they actually do have a game audio track this year. They didn't used to have this, but this is a relatively recent addition. And they have a number of sessions throughout the day during all 4 days of AES, and it's they range from business of music and sound in games to Diablo 3, a little sound postmortem in Diablo 3, dynamic mixing for games. There's a game Audio Careers 101, which I think is targeted at existing audio professionals and how to break into games and the specific requirements for game audio. And they also have a postmortem session, which just says AAA title postmortem. And I think maybe they don't yet have the game covered, or they're scrambling around trying to find a postmortem for that. But it looks like they have a nice set of stuff. I imagine, just looking at it, it seems like quite a bit of it overlaps with some of the stuff that is at Game Sound Con. So I'm not sure if you want to do both AES and Game Sound Con. If you're thinking about doing that and you're in the area, maybe do one or the other. Although AES, besides the game audio track, they also have all those other things that are going on in the rest of the professional audio world.
Yeah, I need to go to that. I've always wanted to go to AES, and I've never gone, foolishly.
Yeah, it's great. The last time I went to AES, it was in San Francisco, and it's just fantastic. I think the fact that they do have all of these different tracks and all of these different exhibitors, it is a rather larger convention than something like Game Sound Con, which is really just a few rooms, and it's a very tight-knit community, and it's actually great. It's rather easy to network at a place like Game SoundCon because you know exactly what 99% of the people are doing there. At AES, it's sprawling and maybe a little bit crazy.
But good for supplementing your income with other things. I mean, our skill set reaches out into other areas. So if you can parlay a kind of a mixing contract through somebody, audio engineering, that could be very useful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, can you still get into these conventions that we're telling people about at the last minute?
Oh yeah, you still can get in. I mean, the registration did recently go up for Game SoundCon. I remember that it used to have an early bird registration at $200, and I think now it is around $500, which is actually the exact same price as the registration for AES if you are not a member of AES.
Gotcha. Yeah, so it's $395 was early bird, and now it's $495.
Oh, $495. There we go.
But they have $695 X'd out. I wonder what that. Oh, $695 is on-site registration. So they're showing you're saving $300 early bird, $200 pre-registration, 0 discount at the door. $695 Game SoundCon, and AES pricing. Did you see that?
Yeah, the AES pricing, it is $500. If you are not an AES member. If you are an AES member, I believe it's $300.
Okay.
Although being an AES member means $99 a year for registration.
I am doing that.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good. So now IndieCade?
Yeah, IndieCade. Another LA Con.
Yeah, and I love this convention. It is so... It's like getting a giant hug from a very cool set of people. It's low-key, but yet as exciting as GDC to me. I feel like it's kind of the GDC of LA, really. You see so much stuff, and it's so easy to connect with people because it's not just plastered with just a giant number of people and hard to swim the seas and find your friends. It's easy to connect. It's in a great location, so there's a lot of stuff to do in and out. And a lot of the events are held in different sponsored buildings. At least that was what happened, I guess, a couple of years ago. Felt the same as last year. But anyway, so the point I'm trying to make is that it's fun. It's right in a collection of an area in Culver City, right? Is that where it was? I don't know my way around LA, so I drive.
Yeah, it's still right in the heart of Culver City.
Yeah, so you've got all these restaurants and all these different things and some tents in between buildings, and people are showing games, and it's got this kind of we just threw this thing together, but it's really well organized kind of feel to it. So it's a small town, but it's really a lot of fun. I'm looking for the price while I'm saying this. How much was the price? I don't even know. Did you guys see that? Register now, I guess. I'm already registered, so I don't know how much I paid. All access early bird is $445. Standard is $495. At the door is $525. But they have different tracks for registration. You've got Game U, and they've got Festival Day. And Festival Day is really cool. It's $30, $40 standard, $90 for the 3-day pass. So if you just want to get in there and see all kinds of cool stuff, then yeah, Festival Day is your thing. If you want 2 days of workshop sessions, panels, and hand-on gameplay for aspiring developers, Game U is your track, and that's $250 standard, $150 if you're a student. And if you want all access, exclusive access to all IndieCade activities, including 4 full days of IndieCade signature professional conference, keynotes, special events, social events, hands-on gameplay, exhibitors, all that stuff, then it is $445 still, I think, right? Because it's still early bird. Or are we in standard mode at this point? Where are we? Their website doesn't really declare. But anyway, so I go all access every time. So there you go. Culver City, yep, 9,300 Culver City. But what's cool is there's so much stuff going on afterwards. Here's what I really liked. A couple of years ago, I ended up meeting up with a group of friends at a bar that was near there in Culver City, and this band came in and played. And it was Zoe Deschanel and her guy who she does stuff with. I can't remember his name. They just walked in and started playing. They were scheduled to play, obviously. It wasn't a random event, but I had no idea, because they go by a band name, who that was. So we were sitting right beside them while they played on a bar stool. It was really cool. So check that out.
Yeah, IndieCade, the early bird pricing is still in effect for the next 30 hours.
Okay. So
if you're
445.
interested, yeah. It's really great. Yeah, just echoing all your sentiments. The lectures and panels that are available if you do the all access thing are really good. If you feel like you can't do that, especially if you're a student, you're just starting out, one of the nice things about IndieCade is that if you do something like the festival pass or the night games, those things that are rather cheaper, like 30, 40 bucks, a lot of the developers, they're just going to be right in there with that as well. You know, it's not one of these things where, oh, all the VIPs are here for this stuff and they don't participate in this other stuff. Everyone is there for all the game stuff because, yeah, you get the sense that everyone that's there just loves the games. There's so much passion that comes to the surface when IndieCade happens in Culver City every year.
Yeah, and you can go online also, and you can watch IndieCade kind of interactions that people have put up on YouTube. It's really cool. I don't know how much of that is official IndieCade video, but there's a bunch of videos that I've run into in my Google searches for other things and to see, you know, and you're right there with the developers, man, and they're super stoked about the game, and they want to hear your feedback. It's kind of instant relatability to what's going on with the developers, so that's really, really cool. I love IndieCade. Absolutely.
I believe Jack's project Nova 111, together with Funktronic Labs, I think they are also showing at IndieCade. So
I believe so, yeah.
If you are going to IndieCade, definitely check out Nova 111 to hear the fine sounds of the Menhorn.
So let me get this straight. So our own Jack Menhorn just got back from PAX, where he supported Nova 111.
Yeah.
But is not coming to Los Angeles, where most of us are, to support Nova 111 and hang out with his buds. Is that true? Is that
that would probably be because you're there, Kyle.
I want to make this clear because when Jack listens to the show, I'll say Jack Menhorn is not coming to Los Angeles to hug us, and that is wrong. And for that, we will buy 2 copies of Nova 111 just so he gets a hug from both sides, financially. It's not a very good association, but I'm going to go with it anyway. It's as good as any one of my segues. I don't want to hear you guys complain about it.
All right, all right.
IndieCade is over. Let's talk. Do we have to keep up with the latest releases?
No.
Yes. No.
No.
The
There we go. That's the topic. There's the answer right there.
Yeah, I thought, you know, let's push the conventions till like 6:55, and everybody will be waiting with bated breath, and then we just go, no. Okay, thanks for coming to the show.
But there is so much cool stuff. You know, I actually just recently bought some new plugins, some new libraries.
What'd you get?
Some stuff from Impact Soundworks.
Oh, yeah.
Will Roger and all those dudes, they just released something called Vocalisa.
Yeah.
Which is just a really cool version of a woman's, Eastern European choir singing in that particular style with those syllables, which are really interesting, and you don't hear them too often. And they decided to turn that into a fantastic library that's really playable. Sure, I'll spend $100 on this thing, and it works really well. It sounds great. Plug, check out Vocalisa. It's great. But for the most part, I'm actually really scared to update my computer or add software to it, especially when I'm in the middle of work, when I'm in the middle of projects.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't touch it then.
Yeah, and I think probably the most important thing when considering your music rig while you're working on it, when you're upgrading, when you're considering new sounds, is how sure am I that this is going to work? Because it's got to work. It's not enough to potentially sound awesome, sound cool. It has to work consistently 100% of the time, or as near as possible. Otherwise, it's just useless. Vocalisa, that's just a contact library, but there's all these things that rely on new players and new technology, and if it's something like that, I'm always worried that adding this VST maybe it will actually mess with another VST that I currently have in my Sonar template. And oh man, if that happens, I know that's going to result in lost hours, maybe even lost days trying to figure it out, because I want this thing that I spent money on to work. Actually, over on this Facebook group, composer Chance Thomas, he was remarking earlier today that he was frustrated with the latest version of Play, which is done by the Sounds Online guys for things like East West, Quantum Leap, and whatnot. How he can make his Pro Tools session work with Play libraries, and he can make them work with Contact libraries, but not at the same time, which is a huge frustration for him right now. So it's that situation which I'm constantly scared of.
So don't upgrade your Play engine.
There's a lot of that's a whole other topic right there. There's a lot of people that just do not touch Play stuff because of Play itself, which is too bad because I think it's really fine technology, really good sounds that are made available there. But that's a really big concern. What technology am I using? Is this stuff going to work? And if you get it to a workable level, well, you should be very happy, because you might not know when you can get back to that if you decide to upgrade, change a piece of hardware, add a particularly new cool bit of software, if you can get back to that straight up working level again.
Yeah, and also one thing I don't like about switching out Contact is I'll build a project that I use, like I'm in Ableton and I built this project using Contact 3, let's say, and then Contact 4 comes out, and I will upgrade to 4. This happened to me, and sure, maybe it's just me being a moron, but you don't really think about these things. You upgrade to 4, you delete 3, you don't need it anymore, you go to open that project. Guess what? All that work's gone.
Yeah.
It goes, we don't know where Contact 3 is, and then you go, oh crap, so okay, just tell me what you had loaded and I'll load that in Contact 4, and it goes, well, without Contact 3 I can't tell you what you had loaded. And then I go, oh crap, and then I get really mad at myself for not thinking ahead. So then I think, okay, so the way around this is that I've got on my machine, literally, I have Contact 2, Contact 3, Contact 4, because I don't know. Contact 5, do I have Contact 5 on here? Because I don't know when I'm ever going to open an old project that I closed out a long time ago and want to reuse something. Like, not literally reuse something because the game company owns that music, but I might have done some sort of like, oh, I've got this oboe and I was using this really awesome reverb on it and I can't remember what that was. And so I need to go back to this old project to look that up. And guess what? I can't. So I have to recreate it through the sound of the actual finished WAV file. Mm-hmm. So that drives me crazy when I upgrade.
Just to put a word in for all the synth heads out there like me who prefer synthesizers over sample libraries. I
think you got a dig in. I think that was a dig.
Yeah. I mean, if you like just using other people's idea of what things should sound like, that's cool. But, if you're a masochist and you like wasting time tweaking knobs on synthesizers, then now you're a top.
Hey, physical modeling, that's where it's at. Yeah. I've been using physical modeling for a lot of my stuff for the better part of a decade now. So
I prefer to use these crazy things called instruments.
I've never seen one of those before. Is that the latest model you got there of the instrument?
Yeah, that was physically modeled through wood and saws.
Is that like a version 3, version 3.1? What?
Yeah, exactly. I upgraded it. I put rosewood on, or I put ebony on the fingerboard rather than rosewood. I just upgraded it.
Okay. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah. As far as synthesizers go, I think if you're the kind of person who likes to use software synthesizers just for their presets, if you're not really a tweaker but you like the versatility of actually having the soft synth generate the sounds for you in real time, but you are not so inclined to get in there and tweak stuff or make stuff for yourself, then I would say that probably, it's probably prudent to keep up to date with the latest synths and the latest technology, because presets obviously are usually designed around the general zeitgeist, the general sort of feeling of the time. So when you're using a synth from years ago and you're just going through some of the presets, unless you've got a recent preset package or a preset library that you've bought recently for it, you're probably going to find some of the sounds that sound a little bit kind of, oh, that sounds a bit drum and bass, or that sounds a bit dubstep, or that sounds, you know. However, if you're the kind of person that likes to build your own patches, then as well as being a champion, you can do a lot with. Actually, you don't really need to upgrade ever. Obviously, new synthesizers will give you more features and new workflows and improvements in efficiency and things like that, and also CPU efficiency as well. But often, interestingly enough, the older synthesizers will sound just as good. You'll be far more familiar with how to use them, which is really important when you're programming synthesizer. You don't want to sit there scratching your head for hours while you're trying to get a sound. And often, they'll be really stable because they're mature. They'll often have less CPU usage because they are not trying to do as demanding things with the processing as the newer plugins will be. I'd say. Hans Zimmer still uses Yuhi Zebra. I still use Yuhi Zebra, and Zebra's, I think it's a 4-year-old product now, or some 5-year-old product.
Yeah, it's a good piece of software.
A lot of, of course, FM8, Native Instrument FM8 is a classic, and lots and lots of people still swear by that for its great tone and just easy functionality. And FM8 is quite long in the tooth now, I think, as well. There's absolutely no reason why you have to get the latest technology if you are a synth programmer.
You know what I'd like to see is a list of synth types, subtractive, additive, and just our opinion of what the best software for a subtractive synth is. Like, I've got my Voyager right here, and I use it for all kinds of stuff, and I very rarely go to a subtractive synth software. But there are billions of them out there. And I think to myself, they're all trying to sound like a Moog Voyager, the ones that are specifically trying to sound like a Moog Voyager. Sure, there are other ones that are trying to do something new, and yeah, you want to check those out. But let's just talk about, here are the 400 that you can find on KVR right now that are specifically trying to sound like a Moog Voyager. Since they're all trying to sound the same, which one should you pick? Well, do you pick the cheapest one? Well, maybe that cheapest one did a really bad job of sounding like a Moog. So do you go the most expensive one? Probably not, because there's probably much cheaper ones that do an equally as good a job. And they're constantly, it's like they have to come out with it. Like Native Instruments did Monarch, right? That's just a Moog attempt at a Moog, right? Am I incorrect there? So why are there so many of them? Is it because everybody feels it's easy to do and they could probably sell it, or is it because somebody did something wrong and none of them have sounded great yet? What's the point in all that?
That's a good question. I'd say that interface improvements is one thing, because obviously not so much how they look, but just how easy they are to use and how much they invite experimentation, and how much efficiency you can gain from using different interfaces to the same paradigm. So obviously, the whole benefit of a software synthesizer is, of course, easier modulation. You don't have to have like this spaghetti of patch cables everywhere. Where does this one go to? Where does that one go to?
But that's the fun.
That's the fun, yeah. That's right. That's the fun. No, that's true. But when we're talking efficiency and when we're talking, versatility, for example, with hardware units, you are limited from what sources and what targets you have, because obviously that's hardwired. Whereas the whole point of a software synthesizer is giving you the ease to have different paradigms so that you can actually connect crazy things together. And how well that puzzle for user interface design and user experience, that puzzle hasn't yet been really properly solved yet. You've got routing matrices, where you have like this grid of numbers where you can just put this into that, and that's kind of a bit, it doesn't invite experimentation to begin with. I'll just pick this one from this huge list. You have also like Yuhi's ones which have all these virtual patch cables that you can just sort of pull from this output to this input. So the whole puzzle of how to efficiently do modulation, like extreme modulation, and extreme versatility in modulation hasn't really been solved yet. So that's one reason, I guess, that they keep on trying to iterate and to keep on trying to create new versions of the same thing. I guess, as you said, another reason could just be that it kind of is an easy sell because there's always a market for the subtractive sound, and I guess subtractive synthesis is very easy to get your head around as far as compared to FM synthesis or modal synthesis or physical modeling or granular synthesis. It's much easier to understand the whole idea of, you know, here's a sine wave and I do this to it and I do that to it and I put it through here and there and then it sounds like this. So I guess it is a sort of an easy sell. And I guess there's also an element of nostalgia, perhaps, that you know, we have this legacy of these classic old instruments, and there's, I guess, a thrill of the chase, trying to sort of get something as perfect as you can make it.
Yeah.
Exactly the same as your Arp Odyssey or whatever. So yeah, it's an interesting question. You know, why does it go around in circles as far as subtractive synthesis is concerned?
Yeah, I've just put a picture in the chat room of the Matrix that you were talking about from an EMS VCS3, which I want so badly. But it's got these pins, and you have to lift the pins. It's just one of the greatest synths ever, and they're ridiculously expensive. But yeah, so basically back to the question though, because I kind of derailed it, is do we need to upgrade because so much stuff came out? But there's some stuff that, like, the guys at Sample Logic just came out with a new synth, and let me get to it really quickly because I ran away from it when I went looking for something else, called Cinematic Keys. That thing is awesome. Have you guys heard that yet? Sample Logic Cinematic Keys.
Yeah,
they're doing a bunch of amazing things, and they keep releasing them like every 2 months. There's some major release, but this thing is so cool. You got to check it out because the interface itself, and here's where you went there, Alex, and this is where I was going to go for why would you upgrade interface. You know, if something new comes out, I look at it and say, okay, I've already got something that kind of does that, but does this make it easier for me to get done? Then I'll look into doing it. And if they've got if they release a bunch of synths, like when I'm at that Native Instruments Complete 10 question now, right? I've got 9, and you know, they made it easier because once you buy into Complete, it's expensive, but now you've got this cheaper path for upgrade. And so I look at 10 and I go, I don't really need anything that's in there. But should I buy it anyway? I don't know. They got they got True Strike in there, which I don't have, and a couple other. And so I look at the things I don't have and I price them individually. So I basically would be having Complete 9 as my core, and then adding in all of these other things individually that would make a Complete 10 without me actually buying Complete 10. But my upgrade price is low enough that now I'll actually save $100 by buying upgrading to Complete 10. But the question still becomes, should I do it? Do I even need to do it? Am I ever going to use those things that I'm about to get by upgrading to Complete 10?
Yeah, are there things that you already have in your bundles that you haven't yet used, much less mastered?
Yeah, like for instance, if I don't know if you're being rhetorical, but the answer is yes, if you are.
No. I mean, I know that there's always something. You know, I like to think that I'm a pretty good absinthe guy. I'm still using my Complete 8 package, and then I was looking at Complete 9 back in the day, and I thought, am I using all of these things? And then I started trying to get better with stuff like Machine and whatnot. But I mean, I know for a fact that I haven't mastered all the stuff that I just purchased for the low price of $500. But I'm using some of it really well. But there's all this other stuff that I know could give me fantastic stuff that would be usable in some instance now or later on down the line. You know, maybe it's actually a better investment not to spend the $500 on something that sounds really awesome and cool, but actually explore all the other awesome and cool stuff that I haven't yet touched.
I definitely agree with that because that was the case with Zebra. I chose Yuhi Zebra, and then all these other competitors for Yuhi Zebra out there now. This kind of sort of ultra versatile hybrid synthesizer, you know, where I realized that, gee, I'm only really, it's like the human brain. I'm only using like 10% of the capability of this beast. Do I really need, all of these other great synthesizers when it's all right here? And the more familiar that I get with Zebra, then obviously the quicker it is for me to create stuff that I want when I'm doing something on a deadline. So I was going to actually say there, what would be the oldest plugin, instrument, or effect that still sees regular daily usage in your workflow?
Roland 3080.
Roland 3080.
Yeah, the XV 3080.
Software you're talking.
Oh, software. Well, I don't know. I love my Roland Romplers. Software. Man.
It's probably for me. It'd be I still use this sound font Mellotron. Everything I ever do has Mellotron in it. I sneak it in every single thing. I do. I just love the sound of one.
Ooh,
but yeah, or it's the forest floor reverb that I've found, and I can't really associate that with a particular software. But there's so many people that now do this forest floor preset, and I use that constantly. So that would be a plugin that I can't really associate with a particular company, but a preset that I've used longer than anything else. That's a good question, man. That's tough. What events?
I still use vSampler, which is a very old, this was a sampler along the lines of Contact and Mach 5, and there are some things that came with that back in 2004 that I still sometimes use. Although, actually, now that I think about it, no, I don't really use vSampler for vSampler's sake. I use it because that is how I access the presets that I made for G-Town Percussion.
Nice.
Yeah, G-Town Percussion. I remember when that thing came out. I guess that was more than a decade ago when those guys decided to make that thing, and it was a really cool effort. And then loaded it up, gig imported into vSampler, and it was a really cool, natural, rich-sounding percussion preset that I got there.
Actually, speaking of percussion, my oldest thing that I still use on almost every project, actually I just checked the date that it was released, and I was shocked that it was actually released earlier than I thought, is it's a drum synth by Sonic Charge called MicroTonic. MicroTonic, it's an analog. It's a completely synthetic drum synthesizer. And actually, believe it or not, it was released in 2003.
Oh wow!
You need to get outside more.
It's more than 10 years old, and I still use it on every project. It's just so good. I mean, it's just so versatile, the sounds that you can get out of it, and of course, it's rock solid after all this time. Still, I'm yet to find a better. I've tried other different drum synthesis plugins, but still, I keep coming back to this. The other ones just don't seem to have that special charm. I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, so that's more than 10 years old now. It's incredible.
Yeah. My thing is, I have so much hardware though that I depend on software as little as possible. And so I was going to suggest to people that when you go to get an FM8 or you want to spend the money on that, go on eBay and look for a hardware device called the Yamaha. What is that thing? The TX something?
What, a DX7 or
DX7?
No, it's TX51Z or something like that.
Oh, that one.
Yeah, I spent $25 on that, and I can't find a sound in the FM8 that I can't reproduce on that. So how much is the software for the FM8, or do you want to spend $25 on a rack unit that's on eBay?
Let's see. I'm gonna look at this. Let's see here.
It might be 51Z, but it's I can barely. The font is so terrible, and it's dim over in that corner that I can't really tell what it says. But Yamaha.
Looks like I can get plenty of TX81Zs for
maybe
less
that's
than
it.
$80.
I'll look too. Let me see. Yamaha TX81Z. That's it. It's the 81Z.
Yeah.
So how much is that thing on eBay?
Looks like you can get it for between $50 and $80.
Oh, okay. Well, it's gone up. I got mine at 25. But
oh wow. Okay.
There you go. Check into that. There you go.
Yeah, hardware is going up these days. You know, people are realizing that some of the hardware is kind of awesome, especially the stuff that isn't replicated properly in software. Like there was a little Twitter conversations that I had with another music composer, and she was actually bemoaning the fact that Roland has really done a good job of ignoring the fact that software synths exists, because you cannot get anything like the classic Roland LA synths. You know, it just does not exist.
Yeah, that's a very, very good. That's another topic. But that's poor old Roland. I mean, they're pretty. Unlike Korg, which seem to be, Korg are pretty on top of things as far as keeping on the cutting edge with what music producers are actually using and actually wanting. Roland is sadly somewhat behind the ball.
Yeah, Korg's done a fantastic job. I think ever since I saw them with the release for the Nintendo DS, and then it seemed like they're just putting out stuff everywhere for, of course, iOS and iPad, and people are using them for everything, for composition, for performance.
Yeah, they did the.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, they did that. The MS-20 re-release kit that you can actually buy and assemble yourself. So that's awesome. Really smart, because of course they know that anybody who wants a remake of an old synth like an MS-20 would love the chance to build it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I've got a Vox Jaguar out here, which is a Heath kit. Do you guys know what the definition of Heath kit means?
Yeah.
Okay. Some people don't. It just means that back in the day, it was just like this. They would send you all the parts, and you had to assemble it. And what's really cool is that my Vox Jaguar, which I got off of Tara Bush, is awesome. There's nothing wrong with that thing. I had to do very little to bring it up to practically brand new standards, and it was a Heath kit. Some old man in a garage is soldering this thing together. Heath kits don't normally survive very long, and we're talking the 70s, 60s in this case. So yeah, it's kind of cool that Korg is doing that. They're kind of doing a Heath kit model of the MS-20.
Yeah, the MS-20, but if you actually watch videos of people constructing it, the way that they've done it is incredibly clever. It's not, you don't need to solder anything, all you basically need is a mini screwdriver. It's a sort of a laborious process, but it's technically extremely simple. Plug this in here and screw all of these like 20 things along here, so it's anybody could do it if you have the patience. And of course, you would have the patience because you bought it, because you love the idea of building your own analog synth, but you don't want to mess with like the soldering iron and like the chance of actually screwing it up and then it doesn't work. They've made it very, very safe and easy so that people won't screw it up and it will work. So just brilliant marketing, a brilliant concept.
I wanted to give a shout out though to Roland in defense of them, because I have a pair of RSS 10s that I still use to this day. So there's some, again, it's old equipment, and I know you guys were talking software, but I truly believe that when you end up in a software question about whether I should get it or upgrade to it, don't leave out the possibility that there's some hardware out there that you might be able to get on the cheap on eBay for less than half of what you're going to spend on this software anyway. And what I love about that, and I think David Grohl said it, is he spends all this money for something he doesn't own when he buys software.
Right. License.
Yeah, you own a license to use something that somebody else created. But with hardware, you've got that piece in your hand, and you can take it in, you can tweak the knobs, you can really get a feel for the software.
And the hardware is probably not going to crash. It's probably not going to give you a blue screen. Even if it's just 2 lines of characters, it's probably not going to blue screen on you.
Oh, this reminded me of another question. I know we're going over in time, but I a little bit. But our last 2 shows have been short, so let's make up for it. Hey guys, do you plug your composition machine into the wall? Do you let the interwebs touch your computer?
Yes, I do.
I'm a yes. Alex?
Do you mean, does my production computer connect to the
internet?
Yes, of course. Why wouldn't I do that?
Well, I mean, I don't. Oh, go on.
There are a lot of people, and I spent the weekend with 2 of them, who will not let their production machine touch the internet because they're afraid of viruses. They're afraid of all these complications. I said, well, what do you do about upgrading your software? They go through the laborious process of getting an actual piece of software from the company. Like they'll mail in, and they have to do this handshake of snail mail of this is my number, and you've got me registered, and now send me the upgrade, because I'm not going to plug it into the internet so that I can just upgrade it just in case I get viruses.
That's a little bit paranoid, isn't it?
I agree completely, but when I said that to them, they threw beer at me.
Okay. That's a good idea. It's a great idea.
Was it good beer?
No. No. I'm not a fan of
PBR?
if it's not a Budweiser, I'm not interested in drinking it, frankly. I like my beer to be water thin and barely full of beer taste-ish.
Okay.
But yeah, they were really defensive when I brought it up. I said, "Why? Just plug it in," And they said, "Well, I don't want viruses or I don't want adware." And I thought to myself, being an old programmer and IT-ish kind of guy, I do understand there are a lot of people out there that seem almost Luddite-ish that are afraid of the internet, And I say, well, the more intelligence you put into understanding how to set up your machine, how to avoid adware, how to avoid, viruses, then the better you are as a computer user. You know how to get out of these problems or how to avoid them. But if you don't want to know that process, then the internet becomes this completely scary place, And I struggle with that a lot because I think to myself, why, there was a comedian who once, I don't remember what he said, but I can't do it, so I won't do the joke. But basically, in the essence of this comedian that I can't think of, I almost want to say, give me your computers. You're not allowed to have them. You're not putting the effort forth to understand how these things work and how to avoid the perils of owning one. Then you give it to me. You're not allowed to have one. It was a comedy thing that was kind of funny had I thought of the joke, but I didn't, so it sucks. But yeah, come on, guys. Don't be afraid of viruses. Learn how to avoid the virus. But they're fine with their process in the same respect.
About what you're doing with your music machine. My music machine does 99% music stuff, so I don't do much gaming on it. If I'm working on a game on that machine, well, I'm going to play that game. Yeah. But even with that, that means I've got Steam installed on that thing. I'll have to download stuff. And, it's good to be updated. It's nice having the ability to quickly install a 5 gig library from, some really small contact library developer, put it on my machine, and boom, I have a new library there. That's great. Yeah, I really can't understand that, especially when it's not that hard to avoid 99.9% of the crap that's on the internet.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. I mean, I have more trouble with junk mail than I do with viruses.
Me too.
Can't seem to get that straight.
This is it's funny. It feels kind of odd finishing a video podcast with Vince saying, "Crap on the internet." Not us. No.
He was only talking about our show.
Yeah, I see.
Oh, man.
So anyway, so I want to drum up more viewers. We've been doing really well. We've had this slow, steady crawl of people being interested in our show. Thank you so much. That is so awesome. But I do ask you this kind favor. Please tweet about the show and talk about it amongst yourselves and recommend us to people and make comments on our videos and things like that if you can. Because that really helps us kind of grow our listener base and our viewer base, and I think it's awesome. And plus, I love it when I can scroll through the chat room and see a bunch of people in there, and it's like, oh my God, I had to scroll. That's pretty awesome. So please promote us if you don't mind doing that for us. And plus, that what's good about that also is that I get a lot of emails of topics that we should discuss, and I read every single one of them. And a lot of times I write back and I say, that topic's already slotted in for a future date. We don't really set dates to our topics. We discuss them about, I don't know, guys, 3 or 4 seconds before we go on air what we're going to talk about. But
we have some emails before that.
We have a huge list that we reference for topics and things like that. And so by having new viewers, new opinions, it gives us more topics that we can cover to satisfy everybody. So please promote us and like this video and subscribe and all that cool stuff, and push us around on Twitter so that people know we're out here. I appreciate it.
Ooh.
What do you think, guys?
You know what I think? I think maybe in a couple hours, the guys who usually are here, they'll probably be watching it because then Monday Night Football will be done.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. America's pastime.
I love football. Are you football fans?
Well,
That says enough.
No, I mean, I actually really like the game, but, there's always a bunch of crap that ruins it, and not the best personalities that are involved. But I love the game of football. I think it's a fantastic game.
That is true. Yeah, absolutely. So I guess we'll sign off with that, huh?
Yeah.
Ooh, put my hand on it. Oh, one more thing. By the way, about upgrades. If a new operating system comes out, I avoid the hell out of that.
Yeah. That is good advice to take. Wait about a year, and then maybe think about it.
Yeah, true. All right, Alex, you got anything?
Um,
Any last minute talk before I hang up?
No, I will be here next week. I'm then going to get on a bullet train right after the show finishes to go to Tokyo for the game show. So if you are going, please get in touch because I'd love to hook up with anybody who's watching.
That's awesome. And Alex is going to buy you dinner and drink. Oh, no, I wasn't supposed to say that, was I, Alex?
Kyle.
Okay, yeah, maybe I shouldn't. No, I'm lying, Internet. Okay, guys. Bye.
Bye.